Another year is over. Another year closer to death for all of us, young and old. And to pass the time, to make us try to forget about our oncoming doom, we play video games. Not all of us. We all have our own means of escapism. It all basically amounts to the same thing. Don't want to think about things. Don't want to think about that real world. Don't want to think about the differences that we all have, the insurmountable differences, and how we all are just cascading forward. Towards what? You know what. It all end for the same, for all of us, the rich and the poor. But video games will be here until that happens. I mean, I guess if you're rich, you can buy more video games. Fortunately for the poor, things are better than ever for video games. Video games are cheap if you're not buying AAA. Many games you can get for $1 or $5 or even free. You can buy cosmetics for those free games if you want, but you don't have to. The thing is that video games have become democratized now. It's available to all of us, no matter what our circumstances are. And now with the Google Stadia, now truly all of us can play those AAA games. Stadia is the future, or so they say. But what's the present? The present. Video game consoles. The PC. Physical games? There are a lot of physical games on the screen right now, but as we know, physical games kind of on their way out. Digital games is what we're doing now. Not quite streaming games yet. We still own our games for the time being, no matter what the companies say. But that's changing. Hasn't changed yet, but it will be. What are we talking about here? We are talking about the top 10 games of the year. Video games. You like video games. You want to know what are the best ones. That's what you're here for, to know what the 10 best objective best games, interactive entertainment are. That's what we're here to find out. That's what I'm here to tell you. We like ranking things, right? You like things and you want to say, I like this the best and this the worst. It's just the nature of things, I suppose. And you like seeing what other people's ordered lists are like. So this is mine. Let's get beginning. Let's get beginning? That's not a sentence. Let's begin with number 10. To be honest with you, Link's Awakening is the game, more than anything else, that made me get a Switch. The original Link's Awakening was, at the time, my favorite Zelda game. Even though, of course, Link to the Past was already around, I like this one more. I thought it had more personality. I liked the dialogue more. I liked the environment, the sense of adventure, the sort of melancholy that came from this weird island that was just the dream of a whale. There was something that really caught my imagination about that original game. And so, when it was announced that there was going to be a Switch version of Link's Awakening, I was very happy about that. I was very happy there was going to be a remake. And it turned out that this remake was extremely faithful to the original game. Some remakes may try to revise things. This really didn't. This is basically the exact same game as that original Link's Awakening. Graphics are better, of course. Well, graphics are different. Controversial graphic style, maybe. I like it a lot. I like this real weird toy style that they're doing. I like the graphics, I like the audio. They made minor gameplay adjustments, which work quite well, such as being able to permanently equip your sword and shield to buttons instead of having to put them on the two Game Boy buttons and then unequipping them to put in other items. The text is exactly the same. It's kind of surprising to me. I thought they might try to change the dialogue, but they didn't. I like that because the dialogue does have a great charm to it. I had a lot of fun playing Link's Awakening this year. A lot of fun revisiting this remade version of this classic, and the game which, I'm going to say, is the best game on the original Game Boy. Take that, Pokemon. But you might wonder, if I liked the original Link's Awakening that much, why is this game number 10 on the list? And I guess that's because, after all this time has gone by, this old game from 1993 just can't have the impact on me that it had back then, when I was just but a child, lying in bed, playing my black and white Game Boy, and having my imagination captured by the island of Koholint. Playing it now, I still had a great time, it was still a lot of fun, just couldn't have that same effect on me. And that's for the best, isn't it? It's good that a game, no matter how good it was, from so long ago, can't have that effect, because there are so many more games to play now. So many more games that have improved video games as a whole since then. It would probably be kind of a sad state of affairs if a game from 1993 was still the best game of 2019. So in a way, even though I enjoyed this a lot, the fact that I didn't enjoy it as much as that original Game Boy game, maybe in the end, kind of a good thing. But still, I had a great time playing Link's Awakening, and that is why it is number 10 on the list. Sayonara Wild Heart only lasts for 1 hour, but what an hour it is. It's a game that's described as a pop album video game, which might give you maybe a good idea of basically the progression. Just like you might listen to an album, you might listen to all the songs. This game is basically one continuous album, accompanied by video game levels. What kind of game is it? Well, you saw some first-person shooting, but it's not a first-person shooter. It's a game that constantly changes genre, every 15 seconds. It'll go from first-person shooting, it'll go to third-person shooting, it'll go to riding motorcycles, riding skateboards, riding a sword through the air, flying, it'll go to side-scrolling, it'll go to vertical scrolling, platforming, there's QTEs. It's a game that kind of defies genre, because it's all of the genres. Here's a Shoryuken. What's the game about? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if a music video has a story. Technically it does, but if you think about things like the video of Take On Me, you think about that video, does that have a backstory? Maybe. Does it matter? Would it make the game any better? No, it wouldn't. And just as it is with Sayonara Wild Hearts. Sayonara Wild Hearts is a game that oozes style in a way that I rarely see in a video game, and that's what attracted me to it. Here's some QTEs. I even don't really want to talk over the music. This game not only has the best style of the year, but it has my favorite soundtrack of the year. It's a game that's available on the Switch. I think it's available on everything right now, but you're seeing footage of the Switch version. I'm just trying to think about what to say about it. When I first played this, I was very impressed by the style, but, I didn't really like the gameplay very much, because the controls, kind of weird, kind of floaty, kind of too sensitive. Didn't like it at first. But then I tried playing it some more, playing it again, played it some more, getting high scores, try to get gold ranks. And as I did this, I kept getting more and more into it, until now I am very much into it. I like it a lot. I like how it plays, even though I didn't like it at first. And in a way, it kind of reminds me of Killer 7. When I first played that game so many years ago, I was greatly attracted to the aesthetic and seeing what would happen next. But I didn't really like the gameplay too much. But then as I kept playing it, I got further and further into the gameplay and enjoyed playing it for that, as well as the story. Same thing in Sayonara Wild Hearts. I now greatly enjoy the gameplay in addition to how it looks and how it sounds. And the length, which may sound strange at first, like I said, the game lasts an hour. That works very well for a game that has so much replay value, of playing it over and over to get higher scores and such, more points, trying to avoid dying, because dying will rewind the level a few seconds. And you don't want to do that. You don't want to rewind and interrupt the music video. You got to get everything right so it plays uninterrupted. Sayonara Wild Hearts is one of my favorite experiences of the year. And it's one that as I was studying for these top 10, revisiting the games that I played over the year, I enjoyed this more and more as I played it. So I decided, this wasn't going to go on my top 10 originally, but now it is. This is going to be my number 9 game of the year. Sayonara Wild Hearts is a game that I'm sure that I will be remembering long after this year is over, and a game that I will be going back to my Switch 2 quite often to put in another hour of this pop album video game.
Excuse me.
Hello there. You've come to Nawo's premier altar fitting shop. We offer only the finest fittings and statues.
Actually, I just have a question.
Which is?
I'd like to ask you about some thugs.
Did you say thugs? Our shop only deals with the finest Buddhist fittings and statues.
Okay.
Naturally, we only deal with the classiest of customers. We're not like the other shops. No thug would ever think to come here.
I see.
2019 saw the release of a game that defies all possibility. Not only that it was made, but that it was made just in the style of Shenmue 1 and 2.
Lots of people break them.
Just in terms of gameplay, in terms of cadence, in terms of the dialogue. This game might as well have come out in the early 2000s after Shenmue 2.
The thugs who have been
It's amazing, really. Of course, just like the original Shenmue 1 and 2, it's divisive. It's a style of game that's not for everyone, let's say. A style of game in which technically our main character is on a quest for revenge, but only technically, because most of what he's doing is he's going to be talking to people, he's going to be getting capsule toys, he's going to be playing arcade games, he's going to be fighting in martial arts tournaments, he's going to be training.
Alone.
Excuse me then.
He's going to be writing down clues in his notebook. He needs to find the person who murdered his father, but slowly. There's no need to rush. And that's a problem that a lot of people have with Shenmue, and will have with Shenmue 3. In Shenmue 3, there's no need to rush. The game will actively stop you from rushing. Oh, you thought you were going to make progress? How about you make 2,000 yuan before you make progress? Do some side jobs to make that money. Don't run. Walk. Mosey your way through the quest. And if you have a problem with that, you will have a problem with Shenmue 3. Shenmue 1, I enjoyed greatly when I played it when it first came out. Just something about it that really connected with me. It's hard to say what. I've always said that Shenmue is more than the sum of its parts, because all those individual parts don't seem all that great, but it comes together in a way with such charm and sincerity, in a way that I just don't see from other games. Shenmue 2 I didn't play until years later, when I did it for this channel. And now Shenmue 3, I had a great time playing it. Even though the story was slow even by Shenmue standards. And even though I enjoyed the day-to-day routine of Shenmue 3, I enjoyed the talking, I enjoyed the training, I enjoyed making the money.
Ultimate martial artist!
Odd decisions were made in terms of what they were going to talk about for a story.
The entry fee is?
They avoided really talking about anything that maybe anyone cared about, and spent the limited story time on things that maybe people didn't care about. Something else that came apparent when you play Shenmue 3, cutscenes are expensive. So you don't have a whole lot of important cutscenes because that motion capture is expensive. You will have some cutscenes where it's just Ryo and someone else standing still talking with each other. But when you see the fully animated cutscenes, like of two people fighting, it's quite clear that more money was put into that than a lot of the conversations. And maybe, I don't know, maybe that could be something that restricted the amount of story they told, because they had to be picky and choosy about what they actually put into cutscene form. But I do say I feel that it was I feel that there were some questionable decisions with the type of story they told. I don't think anyone really cared about the Verdant Bridge. You want to know about how this bridge was built? Instead of talking about Ryo's father, let's talk about this bridge? I think that's questionable. But overall, I greatly enjoyed my time with Shenmue. I love that Shenmue actually came back, and that it actually was a game that I like to play on a modern PC with modern graphics. I mean, the environments look really good in this game. I think they look really good. With somehow the same English voice acting style as those original games, and it's amazing. To me, Shenmue 3 is a miracle, and it's amazing that it exists, and exists in the way that it does. Will there be another Shenmue? I don't know. I can't think about that too hard. All I want to know is... all I need to know is that I enjoyed my time with Shenmue 3 in the year 2019. If there is another Shenmue, I hope there is. I will be very happy if there is. But just like my endurance is lacking, Yu Suzuki's funds might be lacking, and we might not get another one. This might be it. But let us not be too concerned about that. Let us be concerned about the good times that we had with Shenmue 3, and not the possibility that there might be no more chapters in this saga. We'll find out as time goes on, but like I said, Shenmue 3 was almost everything I wanted it to be. It just could have spent a bit more time on some more story elements. Aside from that, it was basically everything that I wanted it to be.
Looks safe to me. Docker's in space! Wait! It's not even plugged in!
Control came as a very pleasant surprise to me. I knew nothing about this game. I just knew that a new Remedy game was coming out. It had an interesting visual style. I did not know that they were making the SCP Foundation the game. Just file off the serial numbers, don't call it SCP, but that's what they made. And they made the best one of these possible, I think. This was a lot of fun to play from start to finish. Walking into the oldest house, this enormous foreboding building that supposedly is supposed to have government employees in it, but you find no one inside. And then you find out that, everyone's been possessed by some sort of alien force, and a few people have survived. And you somehow become the new director of this government organization because your talking gun decides you are. The Black Pyramid told you that you're now the director, so that means you're in charge, and everyone acknowledges that you're the boss, even though they've never met you before. You also do a lot of running around. You do a lot of shooting. The shooting, actually, I would say, is not one of the... It's pretty good, but I wouldn't say it's one of the strong points of the game. The strong points are the powers. You start learning these powers, such as levitation, such as telekinesis, throwing dumpsters at enemies. The game becomes more and more fun as it goes on, because you gain more and more powers as time goes on. You level them up, you build them up, you can do more stuff. It's still a fun game at the beginning, but it becomes even better as it continues. I never felt that this game was going downhill at any point. I kept feeling that it was just getting better and better. Now, some people do say that the end game, the end bosses, really, a little bit disappointing. I would agree with that. The last boss sections, a little bit disappointing. But I still had a great deal of fun with Control. I really like the setting. I really like the characters. I really like the files that you find, the SCP-style files where you learn about altered objects and what they can do in the world. And of course, they are full of redacted text. Because it's not for public consumption, you understand. I remember hearing someone say that this game achieves a very specific kind of horror. And that is the horror of bureaucracy. The oldest house is a bureaucracy that has been set up to contain supernatural elements. And it pulls off that atmosphere very well. This combination of just mundane office work and cosmic horrors that you can barely comprehend. It's a very good combination. I would also say that this game has probably my favorite character of any video game of the year, that being Dr. Casper Darling. If you've played the game, you probably know why. It also has my favorite moment of any game in the year, which, not to spoil anything if you haven't played the game, has to do with a certain maze, which if you have played the game, then you know what I'm talking about. Control is a very interesting, a very fun, and just a game that I was thinking about a lot when it was done. But if that's the case, you might wonder, why is it only number 7? The thing is that this is a game of some high highs, but some low lows. And some of those low lows come in the form of checkpoints, and the fact that your character Jesse can die after not too many hits. And there's some serious load times. So you might find yourself in some situations where you're dying often. The last load point might have been in a different section of the game, different checkpoint. So every time you die, you have extensive load times as you're checking back in to that other checkpoint. Things like that can happen. The map, for instance, for another instance, map is very basic, doesn't help you a whole lot. There are things that seem like they could have been easily fixed about Control. Some aspects about it that I think could have been fairly easily fixed, and would have made it significantly better if they were. Despite that, however, I did have a great time. Oh, by the way, look at this. Look at this destructible environments. This is why the game performance is so bad, because you can just destroy everything like this. Just smash it all up. Break everything. Just break all the desks. I had a great time with Control. I liked everything about it except maybe the checkpoints. Except maybe the checkpointing system. Also, Ati is great. Basically, most everything about Control is great. So if you like shooting in the Remedy style, and if you like the SCP Foundation, this is exactly that. Combined, smashed together. That's Control.
Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream. You take the hot butter, mix it with the ice cream, freeze it up cool, you can see it on your screen. Put it in your microwave, make it real hot like a soup or a dip. We call it heat and sip. Very tasty and healthy too. Granny Cream's hot butter ice cream.
There's sometimes when you see a game and you think, I never even imagined such a game, and I didn't know I needed it. But now that I see it, now that I play it, I love it. It takes an interesting vision to be able to make a game like that, a game like none other. Hypnospace Outlaw came out this year. It's about the internet in the 90s, except you go to bed with a headband on and you access it when you're asleep, because that's efficient. You're also a cop. You bust people who are making, well, who infringements on the rules. Look, copyright still exists, even in your dreams. Hypnospace Outlaw, the gameplay is basically you're looking at web pages in a very 90s GeoCities style. And you're a mod. You have to take a look at what content people are posting on their web pages. Make sure they follow the rules, and if they don't, you gotta rat them out, because if you do that, you get rewarded with HypnoCoin, the currency that's used on Hypnos. The internet of the future the future past, the future of the 90s. Well, that's strange, though. If this was the 90s, why don't we have sleeping internet now? Oh, it gets into that. Hypnospace Outlaw goes some places in terms of its story. There's some very good reasons why we don't have this technology today. As it happens, Hypnospace Outlaw was the most unique gameplay experience of this year, because look at it. It's a 90s web browser, and I'm busting small children for copyright infringement because they are drawing characters that they don't have the right to draw. I mean, it's a job. You gotta do what you gotta do. What do you do? Like, what is the progression in this game? Well, the way it works is you just take more cases of infringement of the rules, try to solve the cases. They get increasingly difficult. They get increasingly challenging. You read the pages.
Wow, SGF. Great job removing that content infringement.
Mm-hmm. They get more challenging. You have to put on your detective cap, your internet detective cap, to solve some of these cases. They won't all be so easy as finding copyrighted characters. No. They get considerably more difficult than that. And as you solve cases, as time goes on, there is a story of what happens to this network as time goes on. Like I said, there is a reason why this does not exist today. It is obviously not a game that is going to require dexterity or reflexes. It's a game that's going to require a lot of reading. Do you like the idea of spending hours reading web pages that look like this? I mean, if you do, that's what you do in this game. This game has a tremendous sense of humor. It is absolutely the funniest game I played this year. The developers have a really good handle on what the 90s, mid-90s internet was like. To the extent that playing this game does evoke a sense of nostalgia. Collect all the squishers.
Downloading Squishers 12. You've got Hypnomail.
There is some great music, some great imagery, some great text. Really, more than anything, it's a comedy game with some light puzzle elements. And it is completely unique. You really will not find anything like Hypnospace Outlaw, and that is why it is number 6 on this list.
Oh no! La lumière! La lumière! Vite!
Plague Tale: Innocence is maybe overall my favorite adventure story of the year. And if you said that one of my favorite games for this year was going to boast technology that would let them put 5,000 rats on screen at once, I would kind of wonder what kind of game is it that we're talking about. And when I played this game, I was quite surprised what game it ended up being. When you read the description of the game, it sounds like it's a trek through, I think they quite literally say, one of the darkest periods of human history, the Black Plague. The bite of a rat could kill you. This is a little bit of a different take on it. Instead of infecting you with any kind of plague, rats can just eat you alive in like 5 seconds, and they come at you like a tidal wave. So they took some artistic liberties with this. I'm trying to think of what to say, what kind of game this is. As you can see on the screen right now, there's a darkness and light element where you're driving the rats away with light. And if your light runs out and you end up in the dark, they kill you instantly. In A Plague Tale: Innocence, you're Amicia Darun, the teenage girl attempting to care for your little brother, Hugo de Rune, who has a strange affliction to him. You're trying to avoid being killed by rats, but you're also trying to avoid being caught by the church, who want Hugo for mysterious reasons. I really enjoyed this story. I really enjoyed these characters. It went places that I didn't exactly expect. I thought it would be a rather dark horror story. Honestly, it kind of starts off that way. It ends up kind of being Star Wars. And by that, I don't mean like spaceships or anything. I mean there's an Emperor Palpatine stand-in. There's basically a Darth Vader stand-in, and instead of the Force, it's rats. It's not exactly what I thought this game was going to be, but I really liked how this game ended up turning out. Like I said, it's less horror and more adventure. A group of teens and kids getting together, banding together, forming a friendship over overwhelming odds, and banding together to give those nasty old adults what for. And giving them, getting what for in this game generally means being eaten alive by rats, which is pretty morbid. You get used to it. You know, there's sort of a thing in this game about getting used to killing people. The first time you kill people in this game, it's like a very big kind of traumatic experience. But oh boy, do you kill so many people in this game, it turns out. Part of the hero's journey is learning to murder, you understand. This game came as a surprise to me because I didn't really hear anything about it before it came out. Then I just saw there was this game with all these rats. And I thought, well, this looks kind of neat. I wonder what this is about. So I took a chance on it, and I'm glad I did. Never heard of the development studio who made this, Asobo. This is like their first big work, I think. And apparently was successful. Apparently they are making a sequel. And I'm glad that they are, because in terms of just being this full adventure story with likable characters and a progression, sort of a hero's journey over the course of this game, I think this does it the best of anything that I've played this year. Also, if you are frightened of rats, I can imagine this being a problem. Because they will kill you. They will eat you alive real fast. I had a great time playing A Plague Tale: Innocence. And I was greatly curious to see where this story was going. It's very fast-paced. Never really lags. Never really slows down, I think. It keeps you interested in what's going to happen next and what these two are going to have to go through to try to make it to safety, or what even is safety. If they get away from the rats, they have to deal with the church. And maybe, just maybe, the church were the real rats the whole time. I did play the game in French. It just seemed appropriate. It's in English. You can play it in English. But I thought the environment seemed very appropriate for the French voice acting. It's a game that really goes from 0 to 100 in terms of danger. You start off in a sunny, idyllic village, and then rats, and then people, and then everyone. People die, and then everyone dies. And now you are trying to run away from tidal waves of rats who are eating everyone. And it ends up being, honestly, kind of a heartwarming story in the end. It's kind of hard to talk about that without spoiling anything. But I greatly enjoyed playing this, and I was satisfied by the end of it. Some people might not really like the turn the game takes. I did a comparison to Star Wars, but I quite liked it. I was into it at the end. So that's A Plague Tale: Innocence, and that's why it is number 5 on this list.
Le trou derrière toi. C'est la seule issue que je vois.
I like VR, but throughout 2019, there was one game that I kept coming back to over and over and over again. And that's Beat Saber. This game is generally shown as being the premier VR game, and it's easy to understand why when you play it. It's very fun, just feels so good to play, more so than other VR rhythm games or just VR games in general. It's odd. I never would have thought that the best lightsaber game ever made would be a rhythm game or just have nothing to do with Star Wars at all. But they did it. They made a game where you're just swinging lightsabers at blocks that are coming at you and doing it to music to be one of the most compelling experiences of the year. Now, technically, this game came out in 2018 in early access. I believe its proper release has been in 2019, however. And the version that we're seeing right now is the version on the Oculus Quest, which came out this year. I got an Oculus Quest earlier in the year, and the reason that I'm showing this version is because I think that the fact that I have it on the Quest is the reason, a big reason, why I've been playing it so much. The Quest's whole thing is that it's wireless and is very easy to get in and out of. Takes a much less time to do that than, like, say, PSVR. And that convenience and easiness is one big reason why I keep playing this over and over, because I just put on the headset and I'm in this game in 5 seconds. And so the game, it's here not just because the game is so good, but it has a lot to do with the convenience of the Oculus Quest, just in general. And as weird as it might be to say, this game might be a little bit too good. Why? Because I've tried playing other VR rhythm games, and then I just keep going back to this. So it's kind of a problem if you're making VR rhythm games, because, man, you're competing with this, and basically it's not going to be as good as this, because this is basically the best one. And, like I said, that actually is kind of a problem, because I would actually like to make more, not make, but play more VR experiences, but I just kinda keep going back to Beat Saber. It is that good. It is so fun, and it is something that you can just get in and go. You want to spend like 10 minutes with Beat Saber? Sure. Do like 3 songs, in and out, done. It's also pretty good in terms of working up a sweat. You want to put your whole body into the game. Don't just stand there making slight movements with your hands. You want to be moving back and forth. You want to be swinging your arms around, really getting into it. And a lot of songs, a lot of tracks have come out for this game over this past year. Not as many as if you just mod the game for illicit songs, which you can do. I actually haven't done that yet. I've been playing it so much, but I haven't actually tried modding it yet, so that's something to do in 2020. Though if I do that, I might want to try the PC version, since that would just be easier to put modded songs into, as opposed to the Quest version, though you can do it with the Quest version. Like I said, when it comes to just doing a quick game session for 15 minutes, half an hour, you want to work up a little bit of a sweat, Beat Saber is the most fun way that you're going to do that. Though you might want to get like a replacement foam thing for your headset. You start realizing when you play games like this in VR, oh, I'm sweating in the headset, this is kind of disgusting. Maybe get some spare foam things for the headset. You're going to sweat a bit. But in any case, Beat Saber, extremely fun, extremely addictive. You just keep constantly going back to it, repeatedly, throughout the year, instead of other games that I might want to play. You know, there are plenty of games in 2019 that I just haven't taken the time to play that I'm interested in playing, and one reason for that is I think, well, I could do that, or I could put the headset back on and play like a little bit more Beat Saber. And more often than not, I choose the Beat Saber. So that's why this is number 4 on my list. It is a game that I've just constantly gone back to over and over throughout 2019, and it never gets old. I never get tired of it, and just remains just as fun as it ever did. That's why it's on the list.
Stop.
OD?
I warned you. What you take from the library must be returned to the library.
Oops.
You'll pay for this transgression. Death is too kind for you. Return what you borrowed.
Oh man, Bloodstained. So, Shenmue 3 is not the only kickstarted game on this list. Actually, Shenmue 3 and Hypnospace Outlaw both kickstarted, but Bloodstained also kickstarted on the promise of mean old Konami was not letting Igarashi make those Castlevania games anymore, but Igarashi's now on his own, and he needs your help to make one of those games you used to like. And did they do it? Oh man, did they do it. Bloodstained is just a lot of fun to play from start to finish. I heard some people say that this game doesn't do much new from those old games like Symphony or the DS Castlevania games. In a way, yes, but also in a way, they take what was best from those games and just make more of it. They just put more of it. Just more of everything. You like weapons? Have like over 100 weapons. You like superpowers? Use so many superpowers that you can all level up and make ridiculously powerful and make just completely different builds of your character that's extremely powerful in all different ways, just depending on how you like to play. So many styles, so many weapons, so many powers, so many abilities. You really would have to look at a guide to find out everything and to see what everything is possible. I have not looked at a guide, so as I fight OD here, my strategy is to use this giant ruinous Rude while also using the strongest great sword I could craft, the Durandal, against him. I'm sure there are more efficient ways of doing this, but this was the way I did it. I really like the soundtrack of the game too. It does very much remind of the DS Castlevania games. So much like with Shenmue 3, how the promise was to make a game, the next game in the Shenmue series, and it succeeded at making a game that was basically exactly like those games. Bloodstained takes that basic format, makes one of those games, and like I said, just adds more and more and more to it. To the point that by the end of the game, when you have all these powers, you are basically breaking the game. And they don't care. They don't care if you break the game. They don't care how powerful you make yourself. You can make yourself as strong as you can. I really like the presentation of the game. I really like the soundtrack. The gameplay feels so good. The story, the story is passable, we'll say. It's not the highlight of the game, but as a character, I really do like Miriam and hope that we see her in another game. I assume that she could not start another game as powerful as she is at the end of this, because she basically would destroy whatever new castle she would go into instantly. I had a great time playing Bloodstained from beginning to end, just exploring this new castle, finding all these new weapons, figuring out these new powers, and figuring out what I like to play with. And there are certainly many other options than the options I took. Bloodstained is just a tremendous game from start to finish, including the bosses. Well, the last boss, maybe not that, maybe a little bit disappointing, maybe a little bit. But overall, I never felt disappointed at all at any point in this game. It just had a smile on my face all the way through. And that is why Bloodstained is number 3 on this list of games. ZeroRanger is a game that came out in 2018, but it does not care. It's a timeless game. It's a game that you'll be able to play 10, 15, 20 years from now and have the same experience that you would playing it today. It is, well, you can see it's a shoot-em-up, a shmup. I usually don't play these, but I had an amazing time with ZeroRanger, a fantastic time. I kept playing this over and over, just trying to constantly get better. I haven't 1cc'd it or anything, but I would like to eventually get there. It's hard to really put into words why I find this game so compelling. Just the gameplay feels so good. The visual style looks better than you would think, considering the game only uses 2 colors. Different hues of those colors, but it's green and orange, and that's it. And it is a surprisingly strong visual style throughout the whole game. A lot of this game is about replaying it, about gaining points to try to earn lives and earn continues. I mean, a lot of shmups are like that. There's a little bit of a story, just a little bit. You don't get much, but there's a little bit of an intriguing story in there that you really do have to look it up online to try to figure out what the rest of it is, because you only get a little bit, but what little bit there is very interesting. There's actually a couple puzzles, which is very unusual for a shmup. A couple of points where the game just stops if you don't know what to do. Like, you might beat a boss, and then the game stops, and it's like, what? Why did that happen? Hey, you figure it out. Just figure out what you have to do to get past this. It's a game that has a great sense of mystery to it, which, again, it seems like a strange thing to say about a simple-looking shmup like this. It's not a long game or anything, of course. Like most shmups, it's quite short, because the idea is that you are supposed to be able to play this all the way through in one sitting. And there needs to be a lot of replay value. You do need to be able to replay it over and over and over again to try to get good at it. And when I say to try to get good at it, I mean it's important to get really good at it if you want to actually win this, getting the true ending. Because this game has some tricks, this game has some twists and turns that are a little bit unexpected. Not really sure whether I should say it out loud about the kind of things it does, especially once you get to the true end boss and what it wants you to do. But there are some genuine surprises, I think, throughout this game. And there are many references to other games in the genre. You've played other shmups, you will probably recognize references to previous games in this genre. I would say that this is my favorite shmup now. Of any of them, I haven't played that many, honestly, throughout my life, but of all of them that I have played, this is my absolute favorite one. I do keep coming back to this one over and over and over. And even if I might play it and not make any progress, it's fine. It's okay. Even if I don't get any better than I was previously, it's still a great time to just spend maybe an hour with ZeroRanger. Just because it is a lot of fun. It's actually just a joy to play this. And like I said, maybe one day I will get to the prized 1cc of completing ZeroRanger. It's not today. Won't be tomorrow either. Or the day after that. As far as platforms, I think this game only ever came out on the PC. I don't think it came out on anything else. I think maybe one reason for that is that this was made in Game Maker, I believe. I mean, you can put Game Maker games on consoles now, but it's a very small developer. So I don't know what issues there might be in putting this on consoles, but it is on PC. And like basically anything could play this game. Not much in the way of demands. But as far as a game that is just pure fun, even though I've been mentioning a few games like that previously in this game, such as Beat Saber, just in terms of pure fun, and pure replay value, I will have to put ZeroRanger at the top of that list, because I just keep going back to it repeatedly. But if I'm saying that I'm putting that at the top of the list just in terms of being fun, well, this is number 2. It's not number 1 of the entire list. So if this is number 2, what could be number 1? Sometimes it feels like good things don't happen in the world, and then Resident Evil 2 comes out. Resident Evil 2 Remake is a game that people wanted for many years, since Resident Evil 1 Remake, and it was never made until now. And it was made in such a way that I would never have seen coming. Resident Evil 2 Remake does a masterful job of combining the horror and action elements of Resident Evil, of taking this third-person over-the-shoulder view that was popularized by RE4, which is considered to be the start of the action Resident Evil, and infusing a lot of horror into it, like much more horror than the original RE2. Original RE2, not really a scary game, honestly, but this game does an excellent job with the environment, with the darkness, with the unsurety of what you're supposed to do against these zombies. At least in the first part of the game. You get familiar with it, of course. The following environments, like sewers and the lab, not as frightening, but I think that the police station in Resident Evil 2 Remake will go down as one of the best environments in a survival horror game. Just everything about it is masterfully done, by the way it looks, the way it sounds, the mood, the atmosphere, the tone, the way everything is connected, the way that you go back and forth through it, unlocking doors, finding new passageways, solving puzzles, and of course a lot of this was based on the original police station from the original game, but a lot of it is new, a lot of it was added on to this new game. When you first start playing the game, the zombies seem overwhelming, as you don't have that much ammo, and they come at you, shot after shot after shot, and then sometimes this happens, and that's neat. And of course, like most Resident Evil games, you end up having more than enough ammo. The survival aspect, the aspect of a scarcity of resources, ends up kind of being an illusion. Most of them do that, but this game does it exceedingly well. It's also interesting how well this game plays and how smoothly it plays, yet they did things to sort of simulate limitations from the original game. Like in the original game, when you aim your gun to shoot, you can't move, you can't walk. In this game you can, because it's a modern game and that's expected. But if you stand still for a couple seconds, your reticle will contract and your gunshots will do more damage. So you end up voluntarily standing still when you're aiming your gun. You don't feel like it's a limitation because the game isn't making you do that. You're choosing to do that. In that way, you're standing still and aiming just in the same way you would have done in the original game. Little things like that. Or how this game obviously does not have pre-rendered camera angles. You choose the camera angle with your mouse or your controller. Yet they do emphasize a sense of confusion, such as when a zombie grabs you, and then you push it off. The zombie will turn you around, and you will not be sure for like a couple seconds which way you're facing or where you should be going. So even though you have complete control over the camera, the game will still do a good job of just confusing you for a bit as to where you're facing.
Bastard.
I found that, like I said, the tone, the tension, the environment, the gameplay, all top-notch and beyond what I ever could have expected from a modern remake.
Serious?
Some things, not so much. I would say I actually like some of the cinematics in the original game more than this one, which is interesting. You'd think that those would have aged the worst. But actually that was the case. But still, as I kept playing this, I was thinking, do I think this is the best Resident Evil game ever made? And I think, yeah. I think this might be the best Resident Evil game ever made. I think this is the one that absolutely gets a masterful combination of action and horror in a way that none of the others ever did. Even RE4, with as good as it was, even RE1 Remake, with as good as it is, in their own respective elements, this combines them in such a way, but still feels like it has the core and the essence of Resident Evil. And since Resident Evil is one of my favorite series, and since I think that this might just be the best Resident Evil game ever made, it follows that this has to be my #1 game of 2019.
There you are.
And we'll see how Resident Evil 3 is. I have high hopes, but hopefully it lives up to RE2.
You know him?
Yeah.
But that is #1
Kennedy, I think?
for 2019.
The rookie. Thought he looked familiar.
2019 comes to an end, and like I said before, death comes for us all, and it is now 1 year closer. But in that time, we can fill it with fun, with stories, with gameplay, with shared experiences that bring us together. And that's one of the values of video games, not just for the fun that you have playing them, but for the bonding with other people that you have, through your fandom of it, through talking of it, through that shared experience. And that's really the reason that you like it when someone else likes the things you do. It's not just as a validation of your own opinion, but it's that you feel like maybe using entertainment as a way to make friends is maybe the only way you can. For a lot of us, that's the only thing we have in common. It's the things that keep us together. Because when it comes down to it, what else do we have? We like Resident Evil, and maybe we can be friends about that. Where am I going with that? I don't know. Just that we're all gonna die, obviously. But video games will not. And I think that these 10 games on this list will be remembered for a long time to come. Maybe for one reason or another. I certainly like Shenmue 3. Plenty of people who did not. But I think a lot of these games will be remembered as good to very good. It's a classic. And I hope that 2020 is a year that lives up to this year, because some people say that 2019 did not have many good games, and I say those people can go to hell. That's right. I'm saying that to you if you're saying 2019 doesn't have good games. 2019 had some excellent games. And if you can't see that, then I pity you. I feel bad for you that you cannot appreciate the games of 2019. But we can still be friends anyway. This is all just stuff that we do to have fun, to talk to each other, to pass the time with. And I hope that you enjoyed passing the time with me tonight, looking at the 10 games that I liked. I hope you liked some of them too. Or even if you didn't like these games, I hope you understood why I did. That's it for 2019. That's it for the games. Though I'm not done with 2019 games yet. There are certainly some games in 2019 that I did not get around to playing, such as I didn't spend enough time with Outer Wilds. I didn't spend enough time with Disco Elysium. I didn't spend enough time with Blasphemous. I wanted to spend more time with Blazing Chrome. And I wanted to get around to The Sinking City. Bunch of games that I have not been able to spend time with, even though I have all these other games that I love. Baba Is You, another potential one that I should spend more time with. There's just not enough time, not enough hours in the day. So even with all these games that I enjoyed so much, there are still so many more that I just did not have the time. Ring Fit Adventure, I need to get back to that. How could I say that 2019 was a bad year for games? It was an excellent year for games. But that's it for now, and that's it for 2019. I hope you had a good as year as I did in terms of video games. And I hope that we all have a good 2020.
Kara, is there something wrong?